Two things you need to know about me in college. One, I was known as one of the premier jock impersonators. That doesn't mean that I was really good at looking like an athlete. No, I'm talking about Jock, one of my friends. His name was Jock. He was this super muscular dude, and he had this deep, booming voice, right? And when he walked into a room, everybody knew that Jock was there. And everybody in my friend circle had a Jock impersonation, but it was generally held that mine was one of the best. The other thing that you need to know about me in college is that I loved Halloween. Man, I would do some crazy stuff. I would make these incredible costumes, right? Like one year I was Mr. Tumnus, from Chronicles of Narnia, Little Goat Man. I made these woolly pants, sewed them up. I made myself some hooves. Guys, I had hooves, y'all. Another year I was an Ent from Lord of the Rings. All those words were just kind of gibberish to you. Basically, I was a big walking tree. I went out and I cut down branches off of trees and I duct taped them to myself. I had a 6-foot foliage spread. Impressive. Sitting in a desk. Oh yeah, I went to class, obviously. So Halloween 2003. I've been at college for a few years now, and I'd set the standard really high. I knew that I had to do something really good to match that. So I started thinking, what if I were to convince people that I actually was somebody else? How incredible would that be? At least in first meeting, right? I was gonna be Jock. Now, a couple other things that you need to know about Jock that, kind of make him stand out a little bit. First thing, don't forget I mentioned he's muscled out of his gourd. So he had this kind of peculiar walk, and so I got the walk down. Another thing, he always wore workout clothes, like he was going straight to the gym, probably because he was. So I got my gym clothes out. There's one more thing that you need to know about Jock. Jock's black. So I had to be black. A little pretext here. I grew up in backwoods Tennessee. The number of black people that I knew growing up, I could probably count on 2 hands. I definitely didn't know what blackface was. Never heard of it. Now, just on the off chance that you, like younger JD, that you don't know what blackface is, let's have a little history lesson. Blackface began as a performance art. Now, I put that in quotations because there's nothing artistic about it. A white performer by the name of Thomas Dartmouth Rice in the 1830s, he wrote a stage show, and he wrote in it a character that he called Jim Crow. Now, if that name rings a bell, it should. It came to represent the oppression that black people suffered at the hands of white people for decades and decades and decades after the emancipation of slaves in the United States. The power of a name, right? Jim Crow. And the reason it carried so much power was because it was imbued with so much imagery. Rice would paint his face black, and he would mock the racial stereotypes of the black slaves that white people just loved to laugh at. To pull a quote from the National Museum of African American History and Culture, where I got a lot of my research for this story, he would, quote, distort the features and culture of African Americans, including their looks, language, dance, deportment, and character. White people of all economic classes and backgrounds could unite around one thing. At least they weren't black. Which is to say, they weren't, again to quote the NMAAHC, they weren't lazy, ignorant, superstitious, hypersexual, and prone to thievery and cowardice. Now, these are all lies, obviously. But this representation of African American culture through blackface, packed with hateful lies, ran through American culture like wildfire. For decades, it persisted well into the 20th century. And with it came the assumptions, whether conscious or unconscious, the stereotypes conveyed. Naive little college JD had no clue that he was about to continue that tradition. He had no idea the pain that he would cause others. He didn't know that he was racist, but he was. If you want to know more about blackface, I would encourage you to read up on it. We need to know, to acknowledge our crimes. Back to the story. So like I said, I had to be black. I went to the store and bought some, as I thought of it, black lady makeup. I figured that would be the best for authenticity. And I got out my workout clothes, and I bought a do-rag because, well, Jock was bald and he shaved his head, and I had these long wavy locks, and that just wasn't gonna work. So I didn't tell anybody else what I was doing because I wanted to see who I could trick. It is Halloween after all, right? The next morning, October 31st, my big day. I got on my workout clothes, put on my do-rag. I applied my makeup to my face and my neck, backs of my hands for authenticity. And I headed to the student center. I knew that's where Jock would be. I didn't let him see me. I just followed him around several steps behind him. And I knew I was doing good too, because Jock would walk by and I would see them notice him, and then I would walk by a little while later and I could see him do a little double take because I knew it. They were going, hey, there goes Jock. Hey, there goes Jock. Deja vu? It wasn't deja vu. What I didn't understand was that people were just shocked to see somebody so brazenly in blackface. Which, remember, I had no clue was a thing. Doesn't matter. Eventually, Jock did see me. And he was hurt. He was hurt that I would mock him, that I would mock his skin. I didn't understand that. I saw it as a compliment, an imitation, blah, 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 flattery. I didn't understand because I was ignorant. I learned a lot that day. Now, this story is in no way a look how far I've come boast. It's a shameful confession. It's painful to acknowledge my ignorance at best, and my participation in a hateful racist act. It's a plea for us, especially us white people, to admit that we don't understand. We have to listen, stop talking, shut our mouths, and listen. This story is also an apology. I apologize for the injustices, the abuses, the oppression that has been visited on black people for centuries. I also apologize for my racism. I have no excuse.